Hello everyone. Today we have with us Grandmaster Ankit Rajpara. He's an amazing coach and a renowned chess player. And welcome back all the viewers to Tuesday Talks with Saloni. Welcome Ankit sir.
Hello, Saloni. Thanks for inviting me, and I'm glad to be a part of this and help the viewers.
Of course, thank you so much for your time. So let's get started. As I was sharing with the audience that you're a grandmaster yourself and also a very experienced coach, I would just like to know how your understanding of sports psychology has evolved over time, considering you were a player and now you're looking at it from a lens of a coach as well.
So when we start playing, I think in my case also it was, so I did not have any chess background. I learned it from someone by accident, and then I played a tournament, and then things happened. But earlier it was just about you have to play tournaments,
Hmm.
you have to practice on your own, and of course if you can do something, then you can learn from a coach and then improvements happen. Then what happens is that once you get slightly more stronger, and then say for example when there is a game when we have to win that game,
Hmm.
or when you are playing against a very strong player, then you start noticing that somewhere it's just more than just playing actually, that internally, that excitement, that fear, that nervousness. So all those things come. At that time, you don't think about it a lot because you haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
But then you start to understand that it is not just like, okay, you do the practice, you
Hmm.
play the tournament, and then you improve. There is much more than that.
Yeah.
And then so that was the initial impression. But as the tournaments, I played more tournaments, and as I started to think more about that thing, and that's where I got more idea about, yeah, how psychology is intervened, especially with chess. And of course, as I got stronger,
Hmm.
then I got much more in depth in that actually.
Hmm.
And yeah, it has been going on since as a player. And then what I try to do it as a coach as well. I just try to show the importance of that to
Hmm.
students.
Yeah.
So it's a continuous process of this.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. Diving a little deeper into the coach aspect of it, how would
Mhm.
you say do you share the importance of it with your students? Could you maybe provide a couple of examples?
Absolutely. So, for example, what happens is that sometimes when a student has a very crucial game.
Hmm.
So, for example, if they win the last game,
Hmm.
then they would win a medal.
Right.
Or for example, if there is another thing that we see, especially among young students, is that when they make a blunder, then they
Mm.
lose all their confidence, and
Yeah.
then they lose the game. Then they just give up and they lose the game very quickly. So you know, I just try to show them those things, and then I try to share my experiences, like how I was in this situation as a player, what type of mistakes I made,
Mhm.
what are the things that was there. So I would, of course, I'm not a sports psychologist, so I would not be able to explain them the whole thing. But
Yeah.
whatever practical knowledge I have, right, from the
Sure.
from my career, I tell them that, okay, how you can try to tackle certain things where you are playing against a high rated player, or when that last important game is there, then don't try to over prepare, then just try to have a good sleep. So these type of things, just to make them feel comfortable, and then try to normalize that situation,
Hmm.
and then try to do it. As for blunders, I just try to tell them that, what try to do is that when I quote some strong player that they know, like, Carlson or Gukesh and
Right.
players like them, when I quote what they have said, then they make more difference to them. So, for
Hmm.
example, Carlson had once said in his interview that he always tries to play the position what is there, not
Mm.
if he's better or if he's bad. His task is to make a good move in the position. So that's what I try to tell them, that if you make a blunder, you can try to do that. So these are the type of things that I try to do. So they just next time when they get into such situation, hopefully they would be able to recollect some of the things that I told them, and
Yeah.
then it would help them in their performance. Mm.
No, definitely. That was such a great insight. Thank you for that. The viewers can also benefit from this because players of all levels must be watching this. Someone who's just started or someone who's
Mhm.
at that precipice where, they're about to make their norms and so on and so forth. So, considering that psychological obstacles come across in our path throughout our journey, it's not like, okay, in the initial part, if I learn to deal with them, I'm done. When I become IM or GM, I'm free of that. That doesn't really happen. And that's also the misconception surrounding that. So, like you said, Carlson likes to play the position instead of just thinking about what am I good, am I bad, what is the evaluation, etc. I mean, sure, evaluation helps in understanding what direction to play the move in, but in sports psychology, we call that as separating yourself from every external part that is happening. So this can also be tied to
Mhm.
ratings of your opponent, or say, for example, fear of the opponent if you're playing against a player who you've lost before, against before. So in that
Mhm.
case, looking at the game, focusing your attention back on the game can be so beneficial. So yeah, these are some suggestions that eventually make the game a better throughout. That's what we're hoping for. So yeah. And
Yeah.
expanding on that a little bit more, as through your experiences and that of your students, what are some common psychological obstacles that you have noticed that chess players experience?
Mhm. So I think one of the things, and this is something that is applicable to all the range of players. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like only those who are playing professionally or only those who are aiming for titles and more.
Yeah.
So we in a chess player's career, actually, there is so even if you're playing casually or like professionally, there will be a period where what will happen is you will actually make you will work and then you will make progress. But
Yeah.
then there will be a period where you will work hard. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing, but then you're stagnant.
Yeah.
So, for example, that becomes a very frustrating period for
Mm-hmm.
anyone, even be it your online rating or
Yeah.
if you're playing tournaments as well to increase a FIDE rating or to get the titles.
Yeah.
So I think that is one of the things that happens to everyone. So
Mm-hmm.
that's so to go through that phase, how to navigate through that phase becomes very tricky because unfortunately a lot of times players just lose confidence. They even give up, and sometimes they even give up on the game altogether actually because they feel
Mm-hmm.
like, oh wait, my hard work, I'm now not getting results. So
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the things that I have seen all across the age and the type of strength they are at. So that
Mm-hmm.
stagnation period becomes the key. So one of those things that I've seen. Another thing that I have noticed is that so this is something slightly new,
Mm-hmm.
but another thing that I have seen is that certain so being afraid of certain type of opponents. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, all right, my opponent is a low rated player, but then he's playing good tournament. So
Mm-hmm.
being afraid of them actually. Or for example, my opponent is from this. So my opponent is learning from this coach, this something like that. Then so like being afraid of the opponent, not based on like completely logical basis.
Mm-hmm.
Something. So that is also something that I have noticed. Another thing, two things if I would have to expand on it is psychology. Once you get a winning, I touched a bit on how we lose confidence when we make a blunder and get bad position. But on the other hand, the psychology to have once you have gotten winning position also really important because
Yeah.
one of the most common things that happen is that we get a winning position, but we are not able to convert them.
Yeah.
So I think these are the type of things that I have been noticing in different students.
Mm,
And of course, I try to help them as much as I can with,
mm,
as I mentioned earlier, my practical experiences. But sometimes the students have, it's like they get over these things. Good number of students, there is no doubt about it. But sometimes some students, they just get stuck on those certain things
mm.
actually.
Yeah,
And to get them out, it's really important that some specialized thing is required. Like
yeah,
it's more of like if we have a fever or something like that, and if we go to like MBBS or an MD medicine doctor, then that
yeah.
would be fine. But if we have an orthopedic problem, then unless we go to that orthopedic surgeon, nothing is going to solve that for us.
Yeah.
So then certain psychological problems for some players are so deeply rooted
Mm,
that they will need the help of sports psychology specifically to try and get them understand and then try to deal with that. So yeah,
yeah,
that's where, for example, this that's where you come in. So like as a sports psychologist trying to understand and going into a more deeper root of the cause and then try to address that.
yeah. No, thank you so much, Ankit, for bringing out all of these points, right? What I loved about
Mhm.
your explanation was not only did you highlight those issues that are commonly considered as, problems where
Mhm.
confidence, fear, etc., but you also said that when things are going well and I am, getting into those better positions, even then I'm not able to convert. So sports
Mhm.
psychology is often about balancing both. How can I get better from what I'm not doing so well at present? And how can I get even better on things that I'm already doing good on? So it
Mhm.
is like expanding that what you're doing well and then changing what you're not. And thank you for saying that how sports psychology can be brought into this arena for chess players, right? Because my following question was going to be this: considering that chess is a mental sport, how do you think sports
Mhm.
psychology works differently here as compared to, say, physical sports?
So I think basically what happens is that so there was an interview that I was reading of a grandmaster.
Mm-hmm.
So Karthik Venkatraman. So
Uh-huh.
so only recently, last week or something like that, I was reading, and he said that how he crossed that 2600 rating barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he was mentioning that he became a grandmaster, but then he was stuck at that level actually. He
Mm-hmm.
was not able to cross the 2500, he even dropped a bit or something.
Yeah.
And then he said that something happened, and then I crossed 2600. He's a very sincere, serious grandmaster. So I was a
Yeah.
bit curious, what made this happen? Because
Yeah.
because he is not, no, I mean, no offense to him or something,
Mm-hmm.
but let's say he is. So when you have become a grandmaster, and for the next few years, if somewhere you're stagnated, then the probability of you crossing 2600 becomes very less.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
how did he do that? I was very
Yeah.
curious. Then what he had written is, he said that started solving more positions. So I was like,
Mm.
what so? But in a disclaimer, he wrote that he knows many grandmasters, many of his colleagues who also does same solving as him, but
Mm.
they are still at that level. And he mentioned that that made an impact on him because he was not doing that thing before. So that
Mm.
skill was not trained enough,
Mm-hmm.
and despite that, he became a grandmaster. So he
Mm.
recognized that he lacked in that skill, and he started working majorly in that, and he saw improvement. So for
Yeah.
the other ones, the same skills that they're working, but they were doing it since earlier. So it would not make that
Yeah.
dramatic impact on them. So now what happens is that in terms of sports psychology as well, that there are some players who are in general, let's say, more confident
Mm-hmm.
and in the other spheres of life as well, for example. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it becomes a bit easier for them, like some pep talk or something like that, and then they would understand. But then there would be other set of players. So the Karthik example I gave was for chess example, but
Yeah.
that was about how the skill, right, that he
Right.
recognized that he had not worked on. So,
Mm.
for example, there are certain set of players who has not worked on sports psychology before actually.
Mm.
So that is the skill that is completely untapped.
Yeah.
So, but they are because they are strong at the other things, right? Maybe they're really good at calculation or maybe end game, or their chess skill is simply, sort of masking those
Yeah.
sports psychological perspectives
Yeah.
that but then what happens is that there will come a phase where you those tendencies, those drawbacks of yours will start showing in.
Hmm.
So then what happens is that then, and a lot of times when a student is very serious, who is working very hard on chess, who is playing the tournaments, and then somewhere they feel like they are not heading somewhere. And then most of the times actually it is the sports psychology. If we try to analyze, then they would be falling into the same thing. One question that I get from, I do very good in the first half.
Yeah.
And then second half, I don't do well. Or I
Hmm.
don't do well in the first half, but I do well in the second half. Or I'm consistently getting into time trouble.
Yeah.
Or, so that is now these type of patterns, and they say that okay, I'll work on that. I mean, it's not like I don't know I'm working on that. But now those are the type of the things that that they still don't recognize that it is not just the chess thing that do
Hmm.
this book and then it's done. So
Yeah.
that's where the psychological part will kick in. And another thing, what happens is when you're doing a physical sport, cricket or tennis or something like that, and I tell you, okay, Saloni, why don't you do some mental thing, right? So then
Yeah.
you would be convinced that okay, I am doing physical, sport, but I'm not doing mental thing. Now, when you tell a chess player that work on sports cycle, work on the mental part of it, then he'll be, wait, what? I'm doing mental thing only. So they'll be like, how? Why do I need to work on mental part since I'm playing a mental game? So but
Correct.
so that is very important to be able to differentiate that being good at a mental game like chess does not equivalent mean that you will be strong mentally from sports perspective. Actually, those are
Yeah.
those are different things, and so yes, that's what I feel.
Yes, no, I think that is great because, especially the part that you mentioned, that when you tell a physical sport athlete to say that, okay, work on your mental things, I think the distinction becomes clear for them because their activity is more out there physical and then mental becomes easier. But for a chess player, both is happening in their mind. So they almost have to compartmentalize that, okay, this is my personal and this is my chess related technical skill. So, how do I use both of those efficiently to bring about good performance? So, one of the things that, people I work with, chess players I work with, have told me before taking a decision, I get really afraid. The first question I often ask them is the fear based upon your personal understanding of that, or is it because the situation on the board is really that scary? Most of the times, what they say is that no, I am scared of, say, my opponent's rating or my opponent or like what will happen in the tournament. And then follow up is okay, considering that, how true is that for your decision making process right now? And just that conversation, that separation makes it so clear in their head that, okay, this is more coming from the side that has nothing to do with chess. They don't have the chess knowledge. Whereas my chess
Mhm.
specific person inside me is so smart, understands that, okay, this is not something to be afraid about. So, yeah, understanding that segregation for chess players is especially important. And great example of Karthik as well. Yes, he has had a great run and an amazing grandmaster as well. So speaking about that level of play, especially when you go higher up, you're a grandmaster as well. So looking at it from that lens, how much of your performance then starts becoming more psychological as compared to technical, where chess skills could be more nuanced in nature in terms of differences with other grandmasters?
So I would say that as you get more and more stronger,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah. So as you mentioned that the of course there is difference of chess skills, but all these other things. I mean the sports psychology things play an important role, especially I think what happens is that once you become a grandmaster, I think it's also quite important to keep yourself motivated because you have
Mm,
been looking forward your whole life that okay, I want to become a grandmaster, but now you've become one. So
yeah.
it's like that's also very important that what next? I think that you should always be looking forward. I mean, having a certain goal, right, to
Yeah.
work towards to. So I think that that becomes an important psychological part because there are some players who, after becoming a grandmaster, for example, lose the motivation. Actually, they are working
Hmm.
hard, but somehow because they don't have like that firm target after that, they were just chasing that grandmaster title,
Yeah.
and then so that also becomes apart. And in terms of playing and tournaments, I think it's I've also noticed that you have to be more responsible in terms of like, because when you're a grandmaster, then people would be well prepared against you, better prepared. Like,
Hmm.
okay, this guy is, he's a grandmaster, so let me try to be a bit more prepared. So you have to sort of change those things about yourself, sort of try to redefine
Yeah.
yourself. And when you're playing against similarly other grandmasters, then I think what, for example, I tried to do at that time also was just try to understand more about, not just about their openings, but
Hmm.
also about their, if I had their live games available or something, then I would try to see how their time management, that sort of thing is,
Hmm.
or how. So get into those type of stuffs where I could just try to understand more about their personality. So I
Yeah.
think so maybe I can choose some openings based on that as well. So it becomes
Hmm.
like you, and if you're, so the it's not just about, your knowledge or the chess factors, but you also try to make some decisions based on the information that you have about your opponent off the chessboard as well. So
Yeah.
I think that becomes the crucial thing. And this is of course on top of, just these things. So on this, I want to share, my personal experience with sports psychology.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I will. So basically, I was an international master,
Hmm.
and I had. I don't know what happened. Things were just good. It was not like things were not good.
Hmm.
But so I think maybe so what will happen is that maybe at some other point we'll talk about the parent part. But I
Yeah.
think this one I'll talk specifically about the sports psychology part. So there was an IPS officer named Bhishmaraj Bam, sir.
Yeah.
So he was in Nasik,
Yes.
and so he had published a book,
Hmm.
and I had stumbled on that. And then we got to know that he's in Nasik, and then we contacted him. And then we were like, and at that time, even if I was an international master, I was still not in that phase. I don't know, I was not in the right frame of mind. And I had a Europe trip planned for February, March or something,
Hmm.
and we are
Hmm.
talking this about January or something like that. And then like, okay, let's have the session. It's so we contacted him. At that time, I'm talking about 2014 January. So
Yeah.
at that time, online things. I mean, it was not that prevalent. Online sessions were happening, but I think he insisted that if you want to be there, then you get to Nasik. So
Hmm.
from my place, Nasik was like I think 12 to 14 hours or something by
Hmm.
road or and by train. So
Hmm.
by road is a better connectivity. So
Yeah.
I and my mom went into the so in the evening we uh, so in the morning we reached Nasik. We started from our home in the evening. Then we had a session with him, and then we again took the evening bus, and the next morning we came or something. It was just a 1 hour session actually, and then
Hmm.
he tried to understood my problems. He tried to, and then what happened is that my rating was 2455, and I
Okay.
had one grandmaster norm.
Hmm.
And then I had two European tournaments planned.
Right.
So a month after that, actually, it was just my second Europe trip. At that time, it was not that common. So it
Hmm.
was only my second Europe trip. And then I actually got my two Grandmaster norms and I increased my rating by 50 points, 51 points, and I became Grandmaster.
Wow.
So, yeah. So it was, now it everything clicked together.
Yeah.
So, but I think somewhere what happened was that I sort of got reassured that, I have it. So somewhere I had
Mm.
it was because it was just see it's very important that I'm not saying that that 1 hour session because as a sports psychologist, you know that it's a very, very detailed thing, long thing, but
Yeah.
sometimes you want to just hear the right word at the right time, and that can mean a world to you actually.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
think that was very helpful actually, and yeah, I think that somewhere brought that confidence back in me. That for next month I was in the right frame of mind. I worked hard on the things, and so that was from then onwards. I understood that okay, this has a meaningful impact actually. Of course, I knew about sports psychology and everything, but
Yeah.
how this can be so meaningful is what I really got the taste of it at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate you sharing this aspect of, your journey towards being a grandmaster, especially for everyone who is watching as well. This is so relatable for those who are aspiring to go from, say, the IM level to the GM level, right? Making those norms is tough. It is very tough to increase rating at that level. Of course, it's not impossible, but the journey is hard no matter where you are in it. So, considering that sports psychology, like you said, works well for some people for just one session because it just brings out what they already know about their self. Whereas for some people, they want to work for longer, not just because it helps them for chess, but sports psychology also teaches things about life and skills that are applied outside of that as well. So thinking about that, yeah, it has like a lot of applications and benefits. But I also want to speak more about the parent part that you said that we touch upon later. What were your thoughts on that?
Hmm. No, so basically this was more about after I became international master, and it was journey towards the grandmaster. I already had one grandmaster norm, so things were slightly easy comparatively, I'm saying. So
Yeah.
because when you already have an international master title, you know that okay, it is, but now talking before that. So at one point I had the FIDE rating of 2380.
Mm-hmm.
So just for the viewers, so what you need to do is you need to cross 2400 to become an international master.
Yeah.
And you need to get three international master norms. Means you need to perform exceptionally well in three different
Yeah.
tournaments. So then you become international master. So I had already gotten three international master norms. So
Mm-hmm.
one criteria was done,
Right.
and I was 2380 in rating. So I needed 20 rating points. So basically, just one decent tournament, and I'm an international master. And
Right.
that time, what was my age? I was, I think 17. I was about 17 actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that was around 16, 17 hours. So it was things were going quite well for me. I mean, what can go wrong? Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what happened is that in next 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I lost 100 rating points.
Mm.
Now, and you have to remember that at that time, so the rating decrease, rating, increasing rating was tough, decreasing rating was also tough because rating criteria, the K factor they say was lower than right
Yeah.
now it is. So now you increase also a lot more, you decrease also a lot more.
Yeah.
So something like that. But at that time, that was not the case. So to decrease 100 rating points from 2380, you needed serious efforts actually. So, but nothing was wrong in that period with me because I was very motivated to become an international master.
Yeah.
Whatever I had worked to reach 2380 rating, I was doing exactly the same thing. And then here I am, 6 months later at 2281 rating, and I'm like, what is this? I was so dejected. I was so disappointed. I was even I think I was in 12th standard or something like that at that time, or I had appeared or I was about to appear for the exam, something like that was there. So I was like, I think this is it. So I told my mom that because she is so she brings me to all the tournaments and
Yeah.
then things like that. So I told my mom that, okay, mom, I think you know this should be it, and I always like studying also. So there
Yeah.
was there was always like, okay, just it is not meant to be. Let me. I'll just quit. I mean, I have, and I mean, in general, I was as a player on a bit of a more mentally fragile side than the other ones actually. So
Okay.
that was also there. So then my mom said that, okay, what you do is you play these next two tournaments you play for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then if you don't do well, then you quit.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, since you are saying I'll play this next two tournament, and if not, I'll quit. So then what happened? So it was National Junior Championship under 19
Yeah.
in Goa. And then after that, there was a tournament in Mumbai.
Mm-hmm.
So then she's like, and it was back to back. So she's like, you play this. Yeah. So it was, so played in this Goa tournament and I lost the third round against a lower rated player. And that
Mm.
was like a shock. Oh no, I think this is the repeat of the whole thing which has been going on.
Yeah.
I was like talking to mom, see what is, she's like, you play, right? I mean, you promised me you'll play this, you will play. So then what happened? I don't know. Then I did not lose any game. And I increased my rating by 19 points in the end. I even beat two international masters along the way, and I
Mm.
got fourth place. And the good thing about that was top six. So at that time, Indian government had some incentive. So
Yeah.
top six they used to spend for some send one foreign tournament actually. So I
Mm.
qualified for that.
Right.
So and I increased my rating by 19 points. So I reached 2300. Like okay, good. Then we played in Mumbai. So I
Mm-hmm.
played so well that I played only against two lower rated players, nine high rated players. I did not lose a single game and I increased my rating by 50 points.
Wow.
So
And 50 at that time.
yeah, it was so I reached 2349. And then after that so after that in 4 months I reached 2399. Something
Yeah.
I played 3 4 down. So it was I'm pretty sure if I had not done well in those tournaments, then my mom would not have allowed me to quit chess. She was just that was something for prolonging my thing actually. But I
Yeah.
think it's as a parent's role, basically, the thing I'm trying to say is that when I said that, okay, I don't want to play, I want to quit, I think she understood, that
Yeah.
he is more on the mentally fragile. Because, of course, parents knows the child the best, right?
Yeah.
So when I use those words, I mean, she could have, like she could have used words like, what is this? We have spent so much of our time on this, right? Like the whole thing you have spent, and then now you're saying you want to quit. What is going on? So, that could be one reaction of hers. But
Yeah.
then it's important to understand that she understood that if she tries to do that, then I will get into more deeper into this thing where I would not be able to get out actually.
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, let me just try to push him to play more because she knew that I am getting the work done. So it's just a matter of time before that form will come back.
Right.
So I think if at that time she was, her main goal was to keep me playing the tournaments actually,
Yeah.
to keep on doing that. So I think this is also really important. If at that time she had said, I would still have played. I'm not saying that, I would have quit or something, but then would this performance have come?
Mm.
I'm not sure actually. So,
Yeah.
so I think as a parent, it's also really important to understand how your child is and how that child reacts to how you convey, right? And that differs from a person to person. There is no
Sure.
like a fixed thing that you do that. So I think that is very important as a parent to deal with that
Yeah.
because as a coach, me or as a sports psychologist, you,
Mm-hmm.
we are there, we'll be helping them, but it is a parent who will be with them all the time actually with the
Yes.
child. So that becomes really crucial for the improvement to happen.
Yeah. No, I think this is fantastic because from a parental perspective, having that connection and having that growth orientation towards your child that, okay, right now my child is not performing well, but I can see that they have the potential that they can. And that is also with objectivity and support that, okay, growth is always possible. So then how can you support? And then on the other side, the fact that you mentioned that that time you weren't doing well and it was just a matter of time that you again got back in your form. So it also highlights that as much as we'd not like it, but good times and bad times both don't last. So if you're in like a situation that's not well pleasure like pleasant or like happy for you, the best part is to not make a decision that has like long term implications, because give yourself time. Sometimes the best thing that is supposed to happen is just around the corner. Like for you, the Mumbai tournament and the national junior were such motivating factors. Maybe you really needed it during that time considering your performance. But yeah, I think for chess players, this is so important because there will be tournaments where they don't play well. I mean, there's rarely any player who always has a very straight upward graph. If it's always like ups and downs, but eventually you get where you want to be. So considering that and the parental role, yeah, thank you for those insights. And well, as you know, we're coming close to the end of today's interview. I have one final question for you. For
Mhm.
those chess players and those parents and also coaches who are watching this, what would you say is the importance of sports psychology that they should keep at the forefront of their mind as and when their child or their student is navigating the chess journey?
So I think what we should try to do is that if there are so I think there are levels to sports psychology as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, very initially when we talk about when the child or the student is playing, there are certain things that a parent can handle. There
Right.
are certain things that the coach can handle.
Mm-hmm.
But then as a coach or as a parent, you must recognize that no, where where your limitations are.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, when you are initially trying, then certain student or a certain kid would grasp those things,
Right.
and then it would help them. But then, if you feel like somehow, despite the coach's effort, despite the parents' effort, if the student is not able to get out of that, then it becomes really important for you to look for the specialist.
Yeah.
So for a sports psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
So because sometimes, so you should not look at it like sometimes they look at it from the perspective of my child is not weak. Yeah, something
Yeah.
it should not be seen as a sign of weakness actually.
Yeah.
So this is an it should be seen as a sign, as an enabling sign that will flourish, that will help them in flourishing the hard work that they are doing, right? This is an add-on.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they should try to look at it from that perspective.
Mm.
Just first of all, they themselves should admit, right? Sometimes they're not ready to accept that such a thing is happening to their child. So once
Yeah.
they do that, then they should start looking for such solutions. And that's where, the specialists like you kick in, that, all right, there are certain things which is sort of above the pay grade of a parent or a coach. Then, okay, yeah, now we need the sports psychologist to really, overhaul whatever, the dilemma that the
Yeah.
child has. So I think that acceptance and that need. So to do, I think that's very important, because still this is especially in India, if we talk earlier, than the sports background. I mean, the sports awareness was not there earlier.
Yeah.
Now we are getting that sports awareness. So that's a good thing. Now we are getting the importance of training and playing and everything. So I think as a next step, it's important that the psychological part should also be explored. I
Yeah.
think so that would be my advice,
Mm-hmm.
that yeah, once you if you see that somewhere that stagnancy is there, then don't hesitate to
Mm-hmm.
look for such opportunities to go to a sports psychologist, and pretty sure that you'd be surprised with what such effective training can unlock in your child actually.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you so much, Ankit. I learned a lot from you today. I'm sure those watching learned a lot from you today. And coming from your perspective as a grandmaster and a coach, you have provided some wonderful insights. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Saloni.
Of course.